We so often look outside ourselves for the answers to our problems, neglecting the powers we have within us and between us. You and I don't command armies or treasuries, but we have the power of our own integrity and the power of a multiplier called community, powers that have animated great movements and changed the lay and the law of the land. Today, we need to trust those powers to take us where we need to go. Well, I think the good news about being human is that the broken, violent world that we live in is not the only world in which we live. We also live in here, in the heart, in a world of inwardness, of human identity and integrity, of self-exploration around questions of meaning and purpose. So when the external world breaks our heart and our will to act, we can turn to the world in here, not as a place to escape, but as solid ground on which to stand in the middle of the shifting sands all around us. In solitude and in community, we can do inner work aimed at holding hard experiences in life-giving ways that allow us to get leverage on the external world. At age 86, looking back on a life of commitment to education and democracy, rightly understood, it's really tempting to get cynical about all of the backsliding these days and simply to throw in the towel. But I learned something back in the day that's helped keep me in the struggle during the 1960s in Berkeley, where I got my first lessons in social change. A lot of us felt certain that this was the generation and this was the decade that would set America on a new course. I left Berkeley and I left academic life in 1969 to become a community organizer in Washington, D.C., focused on issues of racial justice. 5 years into that work, it became very clear that the problems I was working on, like white supremacy, were perennial, not seasonal. It also became clear that if I wanted to maintain my commitment to social change, I needed a new frame in which to understand it, a frame with a lot less hubris and a lot more humility than the one that characterized the 60s in Berkeley. I needed a frame rooted in an understanding that values like love, truth, and justice is endless work. It's intergenerational work. In my work with teachers over the years, I've found that so many of us are plagued by a sense of not being enough. I just don't have what it takes to meet the demand. But the demands of teaching are endless and they're bottomless, more so today than ever before. And I could spend my life beating myself up about the students I failed to reach or the systems I failed to reform. If I refuse to do the inner work required to integrate all of that shadow side stuff into my sense of self, I disempower myself. And sooner or later, it will take me down. For me, as I've written, this has really been an existential issue related to my 3 deep dives into clinical depression. From my study of social movements, I've been able to ask, what is it that keeps us from showing up with our whole truth, from speaking truth to power? And I think the answer is very simple. It's the knowledge that we are likely to be punished in some way if we show up as who we really are and with what we really believe. So I've found in these movements that the courage to live divided no more, and this is aspirational for me, that courage comes from people who have transformed the logic of punishment in their own understanding. They understand, and these words have become very important to me, that no punishment anybody could lay on us could possibly be worse than the punishment we lay on ourselves by conspiring in our own diminishment, by living a divided life, by acting and speaking on the outside in ways that are not congruent with what we know to be true on the inside.
A few years back, you gave a keynote address to a conference on spirituality and education at Naropa University. And they subsequently published it as an essay entitled The Grace of Great Things. And Emily's going to pop that essay in the chat for others to take with them as they go. And the subtitle was Reclaiming the Sacred in Knowing, Teaching, and Learning. And towards the end, you wrote, the sacred is something we carry in our hearts into the world, in solitude, and in community. Can you explain what you meant by, or you mean by, the sacred, and how educators can continue to carry that into their schools, classrooms, and communities?
In the book, I define the inner life as having three dimensions: intellectual, emotional, and spiritual. And my definition of spirituality is any way a person has to answer the eternal human yearning to be connected with something larger than one's own ego. Something that can save us from the loneliness of self-absorption, something that can give us a sense of meaning and purpose. I like this definition of the spiritual because it's value neutral. It embraces all of the world's wisdom traditions, including secular humanism at their best, and it embraces collective movements like the Third Reich that cause people to lose their identity and integrity and commit egregious evil. All of this falls under the heading of spirituality. In that context, sacred means, to me, that which we find worthy of respect, which leads directly to the question, what are we teaching our students about what's worthy of their respect, or about what will answer their yearning to be connected with something that will give them a sense of meaning and purpose? You know, as I look around the US today, and I know I'm not alone in this, what I see is pretty clearly the continuing decline of our democracy and the rise of something that looks a lot to me like early stage fascism. So I have a lot of questions about education and about all of our civic enterprises and what they are or aren't doing to push against this. I think one of the things we owe our students is some basic tools of discernment to come up with life-giving answers to their spiritual yearnings. I'm irrevocably opposed to any form of indoctrination in the classroom, but I'm equally opposed to any form of education that ignores the quest for meaning and purpose and ignores the tools of discernment that can help people make considered choices.